Tonight on SmackDown, your tribal chief, your current reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns celebrates over 1,000 days as Universal Champion. A feat that Michael Cole has said on commentary multiple times that only 4 other men have done in the past and have held the title longer than Reigns currently has. And I believe those 4 men are Pedro Morales, Bob Backlund, Hulk Hogan, and the legendary Bruno Sammartino. Quite some company to be in for Roman Reigns. But the fact of the matter is, what transpired last weekend, last Saturday morning for us here in the US, at Night of Champions, when the Usos cost Reigns and Sikoa their tag team title match in the main event of Night of Champions, well, that's going to ruin the celebration for tonight. Because it's safe to say that Roman Reigns is not going to focus tonight on over 1,000 days as champion, as the tribal chief. No, he cannot focus on that because the bloodline is crumbling around him. And it has been ever since WrestleMania, ever since the Usos lost the tag team championships. Reigns started to ignore him. Paul Heyman had to be the one, the wise man had to be the one to try and calm down the Usos and try to lighten up their mind in terms of the tribal chief. And then the Usos lost the rematch, which they dedicated to Roman Reigns, which has led up to this part where Roman Reigns pretty much ignores and belittles their cousins to the point that Jimmy Uso had little to no choice but to strike his tribal chief at Night of Champions with a super kick. This after the miscommunication, after they were aiming for Sami Zayn in that double thrust kick, double super kick by the Usos, and Sami moved out the way and they hit Solo Sikoa. Reigns only saw that. He didn't see Zayn move out the way, and then obviously it's something that we've been seeing over the past few weeks. Reigns gets up there, shoves Jimmy's face, shoves Jey Uso away, belittles his cousins, and that leads to Jimmy Uso having enough. He's had enough of the tribal chief's antics against his own family, and he super kicked the Universal Champion. And the expression on Jey Uso's face said it all. Jey Uso was there from the very beginning of the bloodline. All the emotional, psychological, physical damage that Roman Reigns did to Jey Uso, 3 years later, almost 3 years later, it's still very much sticking in Jey Uso's head. And that's the expression we saw at Night of Champions. He knew that Jimmy Uso had messed up by doing just that, by super kicking Roman Reigns. And then at that point, Jey Uso had no choice but to leave with Jimmy Uso right by his side. Because that is his brother. That is his twin brother. And he would rather take the weak with his twin brother than stick by Roman Reigns' side and deal with the consequences. Because much like when Jey Uso was going back and forth about Sami Zayn when Zayn left the bloodline, Jimmy Uso got threatened. Jimmy Uso was going to take all the blame for Jey Uso's decision. The exact same thing was going to happen if Jey Uso stayed with the bloodline and watched Jimmy Uso walk away. Solo Sikoa, again, in my opinion, is still going to be a very important factor in the very near future. Because in storyline, Roman Reigns is his tribal chief, but that is his cousin. The Usos are Solo Sikoa's older brothers. Every single time in the past few weeks, we've seen Solo Sikoa have to make a choice, have to make a decision. Remain loyal, purely loyal, to his tribal chief, or side with his brother, side with his most direct blood. And the wise man and Roman Reigns have always gotten in his ear to the point that Solo Sikoa chose the tribal chief. And Solo Sikoa is just the muscle right now. He's just standing behind Roman Reigns at this point. He doesn't really make decisions for himself yet. And the rumors that at Money in the Bank in London, we might see Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns versus the Usos in a tag team match. Now, you know me. In my opinion, that's a little bit too early to see the collapse, the dissolution, the disbandment of the Bloodline. I think this should happen during the fall, closer to WrestleMania, where we will see Roman Reigns finally lose the Undisputed Universal Championship. But for now, tonight on SmackDown, other than the fact that he celebrates over 1,000 days as champion, other than the fact that the rumors are that they might hand him a brand new World Championship title to replace the two that he currently holds, which adds insult to injury because he goes from being Roman 4 belts, or the possibility of becoming Roman 4 belts, to Roman just having one title, the Undisputed Universal Championship. So again, a lot to unpack here. Nothing that a lot of fans haven't been expecting up until this point. And I know a lot of fans on social media are saying that, well, this would be much more effective had Roman Reigns lost the World Championship to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. The thing is, he'd have no leverage. He'd have no bragging rights over the Usos because the Usos lost their titles. They lost their match at WrestleMania. Reigns retained. He's still a tribal chief. He's still the SmackDown is still his show. He became world champion on his own. And then slowly, he kept adding family members to help him, to aid him in his championship defenses and to retain his titles. So it only makes sense for the story for him to be at the very top, at the very pinnacle with his world championship. And slowly he starts to lose that bloodline. The Usos leave. Solo leaves. Paul Heyman leaves. And Roman Reigns is alone. He doesn't have a bloodline anymore. And that's when he falls. That's when he loses the Undisputed Universal Championship. Much like what Cody Rhodes said in the lead up to WrestleMania. He'll lose everyone around him before he loses the most important thing, which is the World Championship, which is the Universal Championship. Now, I know he didn't mean that he was going to lose the world title after all of that, because Cody Rhodes was trying to take the title off of him at WrestleMania, but at this point in time, that's exactly what's going to go down. Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa right now are the ones that are pretty much, they have to make a decision on what to do with the bloodline and the tribal chief and Roman Reigns. And tonight on SmackDown, we find out what happens. Tonight on SmackDown, we get the celebration of tribal chief Roman Reigns, 1,000 days plus as Universal Champion. And we'll just have to wait and see what he says about the Usos and if the Usos even show up on tonight's SmackDown. So with that said, what do you think about the Bloodline storyline? Do you think it's going the way it should be going? Or you still have the thought that Cody Rhodes should have dethroned Roman Reigns at WrestleMania to make the storyline more effective? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions in the comment section below. In the meantime, tune in later on tonight to Fox for SmackDown or to TNT for Rampage. Hell of a lineup they got on Rampage too. So with that said, I'm Alexis Carrillo. This has been Wrestling Talk, and I'll see you next time.